Well, hello everyone. Happy December 4th and happy full super moon in Gemini. We have a lot going on, an absolute lot going on today. So let's get to it for everyone here today. And let me get over to my screen. And here we go. So the super moon will be at 6:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, USA. That'll be 11:14 p.m. if you're in the UK. So I was thinking a lot about this moon when I was writing it up, and there is so much more involved in here than I even thought until I really sat down and started working on it. So it is a super moon, so it's a big energy. We're at the end of the year. We only have one more moon. It'll be a new moon in Sagittarius later on in the month. But to understand this supermoon, I think we need to understand the deeper meaning of Gemini and the message of what this lunation is really um, talking about and referring to as far as what is really going on inside of us. Because the last moon was a Scorpio moon, and with the Scorpio moon, it's all internal work, doing the deep work, the shadow work. You know, what came what came up, what came out, what were you able to heal? Um, how were you able to use discernment? Did you find it easy? Did you find it difficult? Because what happened with this moon that could be, or what happened with that Scorpio moon could somewhat carry over a little bit to this Gemini moon. So Gemini is not, just the simple sign of communication. Um, it's kind of like the weaver of realities through our thought process. Okay. When we think about Gemini, Gemini rules how we think, how we speak, how we listen and respond, and how others hear us, or how they think they hear us, or we think that they hear us, or we hear them. So there's a lot that has to do with listening and hearing and the way we respond or react to what we are hearing. So it also has to do with the way we learn and the choices that we make. And, what is your story? How do you interpret your own life story? Um, or what is your Gemini telling you your story is? What is the story that you carry around with you? And how real is that? And how you communicate with the world and yourself inside and out. So again, I'm going to say that with this moon, this Gemini supermoon, um, it's an inside and an outside job. This Gemini supermoon is bridging the inner and the outer world, and it's where our perceptions, and our beliefs, our thoughts and beliefs become reality. And the universe, you know, does not rearrange your life first. It rearranges your mind. Everything starts with a thought, even if that thought is in the ethers of Pisces or wherever it is. Um, so from that inner shift, the thought, your world begins to change. So this is a moon not only about communication, but about mental awakening, lucidity, recognition, clarity, and conscious choice. Now, Gemini is represented by the twins, and the twins reflect the two aspects of you. Okay. Um, they, Gemini also is about a lot about duality, but it's also very left and right brained. I always admire that about Geminis, that they have the ability to use both sides of their brain, especially when they're in alignment, which is absolutely beautiful. So Gemini represents the rational mind and the intuitive mind, the left and the right brain, the conscious and the subconscious, the inner voice and the, I'm going to say outer voice and outer reality, because what we think, we a lot of the time speak out loud. Okay. The the human self, the mortal self, and the higher self. Because when we think about its ruling planet, Mercury, Mercury's higher octave is Uranus, which is also activated during this moon. So we're talking about our everyday, the mind, and the way we communicate every day, and the higher mind, the way we connect with um, spirit or think. Aquarian type of energy, right? Thinking outside of the box. And Gemini can be very creative. And the supermoon is going to bring up parts of us that have been in conflict somewhere within us. And it's going to allow us to see where they're ready to come together, where they're ready to reunite. So you may notice some internal contradictions coming to the surface, coming to your immediate awareness, um, old thoughts, um, those repeating patterns or loops that we get stuck in the spiral, dissolving. Um, these sudden breakthroughs are aha moments, sudden realizations, and this sense that something finally just clicks mentally or emotionally within you. Gemini loves the paradox. It's not Truth is not singular in Gemini. There is not one truth. It's not this or that. It could be this and that, and it's layered. Think of it as making like a sandwich. You start with the bread and then the mustard or the mayonnaise and then the cheese and then, the salami or and just layers and layers. So this moon, in a sense, invites you to find the layer that frees you um, from from the mental, I want to say, shackles that we've either placed upon ourselves or just lived with our whole life and really weren't aware of them because it was just part of who we were. Although we knew we were uncomfortable, we didn't know why. I feel like the clarity will be coming with this. So, as I said earlier, it is a Mercury ruled sign. And um, it's the only planet that can travel through all realms. And Mercury is also known as Hermes in Greek mythology. So, and it's the winged messenger that can travel between all realms. So it's not just, Hermes isn't just the god of speech. He's the guardian of thresholds, the guide between worlds, the translator of divine messages. He can travel between dimensions. Um, he's the facilitator of initiation. And he also can be the trickster who can break stagnation. So wherever you feel stuck and this trickster energy may pop up and you may think that something is true that maybe isn't true, but then you find out it is true because we don't know because it's Mercury and that's how Mercury is. Now we're recently out of Mercury retrograde. I believe it was November 29th and it is the 4th. So around December 11th, we will be clear, totally clear of the post Mercury retrograde shadow. So that will help bring even more clarity. So, Mercury slash Hermes walks between heaven and earth, conscious and unconscious, and our soul and our personality. And he carries messages across all realms. So Gemini belongs to Hermes because Gemini is the place in the zodiac where thought becomes destiny. Okay. It's the god of language, symbols, signs, contracts, oaths, memories, messages, timing, and destiny pathways. And he teaches you that what you speak sets the road before before your feet. What you speak sets the road before your feet. Let's try it for the third time. What you speak sets the road before your feet. Thank you. Um, so basically what he's saying is your voice carries a lot of weight, that what you speak, you can you can speak into fruition. Your thoughts become actions, and your actions create things and bring them to reality. So we always want to be mindful of our thoughts because, you know, if you can dream it, you can create it. If you can dream it, you can speak it. If you can speak it, you can set the wheels of motion. Gemini can be very creative when it needs to be, and it's very creative anyway. So be mindful. Oh, I always say whenever Mercury is involved in anything, be mindful of your words. So Mercury's influence on this moon, because this moon is ruled by Mercury, um, everything Mercury is going to be amplified. Okay, so conversations may carry some karmic weight. Words have power. Think about that. The power of your words. Thoughts reverberate through the nervous system, and realization comes quickly. Truths surface in moments of flashes, okay? Intuition speaks through language, signs, and dreams. So really, really pay attention to your dreams at this time as well, because this super moon may bring messages through your dreams, intuitive downloads that hit like lightning strikes. We also have Uranus activated, with it being retrograde in Taurus at this time. And the mind is more sensitive now. So you may you may receive emails, messages, or news that could realign your path. Like you might have thought your path was one way, and now this lightning strike moment comes and you realize that your path is something else. Um, Conversations may occur that are unforgettable for whatever reason. Like they could be conversations that could be life-changing, um, moments that bring opportunities for growth and expansion, or something you've been wanting to do that you haven't been able to do, and a truth that is spoken out loud that changes everything. So this is a time to really step up and speak your truth. Okay. The mind is more open and sensitive now, and the soul is whispering into the mental plane of the universe. Okay. And we have this Gemini moon at 13 degrees. So um, the number 13 is the number of soul transformation, and it's also a divine feminine number. So Mercury's not just visiting your mind. He's he's how can I say it? It's like an initiation. You're being asked to initiate with your mind, and it's not about distraction. It's about revelation, what is being revealed. So Mercury at 13 degrees, it's like, what belief system are you ready to outgrow? What story has to die so that you can live differently? Maybe the way you always dreamed of. And where has fear been written into your story in the past? And how are you letting it go now? Or how can you let it go now? So remember that Mercury or Hermes meets you not as a messenger, but he's the gatekeeper, and he's asking, what are you willing to release to walk forward? um, lighter and brighter. Okay. So the goddess of this moon is Iris, and she is also a messenger of light. And she's a divine translator. And she walks between worlds carrying prayer upward and guidance downward. So, as above, so below. She supports emotional honesty, intuitive guidance, symbolic messages, spiritual connection, creative expression, digital communication, anything that soothes the nervous system, which will probably be highly activated if you haven't already felt it in the within the last week or so. You probably will be feeling it. Um, she also supports healing relationships, and all these things are coming into play with the other aspects with this moon because we have Chiron active and Uranus and just so many things with this moon. So you can call upon Iris at any time. She is a sacred messenger and she helps you hear your truth and speak with confidence and clarity. So she is the divine embodiment of this Gemini supermoon. And just as Gemini governs communication and perception and let's say I'm going to use the word mental movement or adjustment or alignment. She is the bridge between realms and the carrier of messages from the divine world to the human world. And she's connected to rainbows as well. So she travels this rainbow path between the heaven and earth, between spirit and the material world and the heart. She helps connect the heart with the mind. So this is full moon is a messenger moon, a release moon, a threshold moon, and a moment when truth travels fast. Um, and I want to say that like there's this think of yourself, like somewhere and someone stands up and makes an announcement. Just think of this moon as like an announcement from the soul that this is going to bring a message that comes from the deep shadow work that we did with the last Scorpio moon up to the surface now for this Gemini moon. And since Gemini is all about all forms of communication, that includes our communication with ourself. And part of communication is listening and having the trust and the faith in the unseen and the unknown to trust that those messages that are coming from within ourselves. So Iris also rules um, when something important crosses from the invisible into the awareness. So that's what I was just describing. Um, so she is also ruled by Mercury, god of communication, signals, thinking, words, and revelations. And she complements this moon perfectly as a feminine expression of divine communication. And she transmits soul truth. And her presence during this moon will highlight sudden realizations, unexpected conversations, emotional messages that arrive through dreams or intuition. This is where we really need to have a lot of faith and trust in the unseen and unknown and in ourselves, in our inner truth, because our inner truth is finally landing. It's hitting home. The car is pulled into the driveway. Okay. And um, there is clarity breaking through all of this confusion. And I'm not saying that all the fog has lifted yet. It hasn't, but it is starting to come through. And I think we're seeing that play out if you, well, especially if you're in the United States, but all countries have their issues. I don't watch the news, but I get my updates from my friends and a lot of secrets. Think of Black Moon Lilith. Think of Scorpio. Think of the last moon. Think of all of the truths rising to the surface. When the old saying is a watched pot never boils. And everything now, um, our focus has been pulled in so many directions, you know, with all the chaos and conflict that we've all been surrounded with in the out from the outer world. Um, and some of us have, made this bubble of protection and I'm just not someone who watches the news because I'm highly sensitive and it's almost traumatic at this point. I know it's not funny, but it can be traumatizing for some people, especially the highly sensitives. But she is bringing, I want to say she's just bringing it all to the door, and the door is open, and she's a threshold goddess, and this moon is a doorway to, uh, com- I want to say truthful communication. Um, so it's a huge karmic point with the lunar nodes of fate being activated as well. So not only is she the goddess of thresholds, but she does govern moments of transition, crossings between life chapters, um, or massive life changes, and the space between what was and what is I want to say, who we were and what we're becoming. Okay. So we're kind of in this between worlds kind of energy. And it's kind of like once reality comes, it dissolves and then another one begins. So I get that between worlds energy with this. When she appears in astrology energetically, um, it marks a turning point in your life. And it's not always loud, but it's very undeniable. So she also is associated with the number 13, and that's a sacred feminine number that's associated with this moon. So when we think about that, we think about the womb, the moon, because the moon itself is feminine. And we think about cycles and we think about rebirth again, not only because we just left the Scorpio moon of death and rebirth, but because the moon itself, the divine feminine, is always birthing something new, okay, from the womb. And when we think about her connection to the moon, there's 13 moons in 1 year approximately, and the moon is associated with the feminine, the divine feminine, feminine overall with intuition. Um, we think about emotional tides, think about the ocean, the tides of the oceans and the seas, and you think about um, birthing from the womb. And the number 13 is not random. It is lunar because the divine feminine moves in cycles, not in straight lines. Nothing is linear. And the number 13 is also a holy number because it represents fertility and childbirth and death and rebirth and its initiation, transformation. Think of the crone, the mother, the maiden cycle. Okay. And 13 embodies the moment of transition between lifetimes when one form dissolves and another emerges. So think of the butterfly, okay? Think of the butterfly in the cocoon emerging. So, a lot of cultures in the past, um, you know, feared the number 13 because it was associated with the goddess. And since it was associated with the power of the divine feminine, um, it was, really, really frowned upon. I mean, like hotels don't even have a 13th floor, which I find interesting. I always said if I was going to build a hotel that I would put a 13th floor because I actually love the number 13. So, but patriarchal systems from the past displaced these goddess-centered societies, and the sacred feminine symbolism was intentionally suppressed by not using the number 13, because it was associated with the power of the divine feminine. And discrediting the number 13 helped discredit female autonomy, cyclical living, the wisdom of the priestess, um, moon rights, fertility rights, um, menstruation as being a sacred process. So fear replaced reverence. So um, in the tarot, the number 13 corresponds to the death card, not a physical death, but an ego death and a rebirth and shedding of identities and womb to womb renewal. The feminine archetype governs transitions. So 13 is a portal, ladies and gentlemen. It is definitely a portal. And when we think about 13 and the goddess archetype, the earth mothers, the moon queens, the death mothers, they were all linked with the lunar cycles. So 13 also connects to Hecate's triple form, Isis's resurrection, and the mystery surrounded around that, Kali's rebirth, destruction, Persephone's descent and return, and the underworld initiation. So, goddess traditions knew that you must descend to rise. And with that Scorpio, that last moon being in Scorpio and this one being in Gemini, that is what we're doing. You must descend to rise and you must dissolve to become. So 13 in the modern feminine awakening is resurfacing as we embrace having our monthly periods. We embrace moon wisdom, womb healing, ancestral reconnection, embodying the divine feminine energy and sacred sexuality. It is a number of remembrance, and it reminds women that they're not broken, that they are secular. They are going through the cycles of their life. So if you see the number 13 and it keeps appearing for you, it's telling you to honor your cycles, listen to your body and your intuition, to let go of what has ended and to rebirth yourself gently. Okay. So let's see. Let me get down to some of this astrology for you now. And how the Gemini energy may feel under this moon. You may feel mentally activated, highly activated, and or restless, or tired because you are mentally drained. You may also feel curious about new things or new, starting new things or going maybe um, heading in new directions, possibilities of maybe thinking about moving somewhere new, starting a new business, starting a new, just something that maybe you've been thinking about but have never really taken complete and full action on. It's always been just a thought that hasn't been really brought to form yet. So you may also feel compelled to speak your truth. And I can honestly say the truth has been dripping from my lips for about 2 weeks, uncontrollable, like butter, like dipping lobster in butter. Like seriously, it's almost like I can't control myself. I can't help myself. But I'm not, I'm someone that pretty much shoots straight from the hip, and I always speak my truth, um, as much as possible. I have to admit, every once in a while, usually around the holidays, there comes a little white lie. It's usually around a gift because I don't like to ruin the holidays. But on a more serious note, this can be really, really um, make you more sensitive to noise, um, or certain frequencies or certain things, kinds of stimulation. Okay. Like maybe a song that you always liked to hear or play. All of a sudden, it doesn't resonate with you. It actually annoys you. Okay. Or like as I'm recording this, there is a siren in the background. If it's not a siren, it's usually the crows, but I guess it's too cold with all the snow for the crows. It is actually freezing here. Literally is at freezing, and we still have quite a bit of snow. So you may become more sensitive to noise, words, external stimulation, crowds. Think of yourself being in a crowded situation, like in the mall shopping for Christmas, with that Christmas music playing and kids running all over and screaming and parents looking for their kids and shopping and wrapping and who's on your list and who is just so many things. You will be more sensitive to those things. You also may become more aware or more highly alert to patterns, signs, and synchronicities. And your thoughts may come, those aha thoughts may come in quick, fast, lightning strike kind of bursting energy. Like you may be doing one thing and then all of a sudden this thought just comes out of nowhere. Write it down so you don't forget it. Um, your dreams may become very, very vivid, and your awareness sharper. It's like becoming laser focused. This isn't chaos. This is the um, electricity moving through your body. Think of it as the so plugging the TV into the wall, okay? And when you plug it in and you turn it on, what happens? The screen transforms into whatever channel you have on. So think of this as the electricity of transformation moving through the mental field, the brain, okay? And Gemini rules part of the nervous system along with Uranus. So think of it as your body's electrical system. So everything's going to feel electrified or magnified in some way, shape, or form. So Gemini teaches us that you don't become through force. Okay? You don't become who you are through force. You become through choice. Okay? Because we have the ability to communicate, whether it is within our own minds or verbal communication or just sitting and listening to messages that may come in through meditation. So every thought is a seed. And right now, especially, every word is a spell. You have the ability right now to rewrite your story and to rebuild who you want to become and to build a bigger and brighter future for yourself. And this moon encourages you to choose your thoughts consciously and to speak with intention, to honor your intuitive signs, um, and to trust them. It also asks you to question things that do not resonate with you anymore. Maybe old thoughts, feelings, or beliefs, old habits, old patterns, and to allow room for new things to come in by releasing those old things. So under Gemini, your life does not shift because of something external. Your life shifts because your mind changes first. And this moon isn't asking you to become someone new. It's asking you to remember who you were before fear entered your life. So remember that Mercury is walking and talking and communicating with you now. It's carrying messages, it's altering timelines. And I have been seeing multiple timelines. And I do feel like we have a choice that we can pick a new timeline. Um, we're making new introductions within ourselves between the mind and the soul. So listen closely because reality is speaking through your thoughts and your dreams. Okay. So here we go with the aspects. So this is not an ordinary month by far. All right. So here we go. Gemini full moon, December 25 at 6:14 p.m. December 4th, 2025 at 6:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, USA. She is not subtle. She is the mental and emotional purging point of the year, the place where everything you've been holding in your mind, your heart, and your nervous system rises to the surface so that you can finally exhale and decide what will not cross the bridge with you going into 2026. Think about that for a minute. Take that all in. Just sit for a minute. Take a breath. Take a deep breath in and exhale because this is the final chapter. We're in December, people. We're in December of 2025. So this is the final chapter of our story in 2025. It's the last twisting of the plot before the new year, the last big relief and release before your next version of yourself comes online because that's what's happening. The new version of ourself is coming online because we are going to listen and we are going to remember and we're going to pay attention to all the signs and synchronicities. So if you've been asking for a sign, here it is. December's not an ordinary month. It's not only the closing chapter of a year, but it's the completion of an entire cycle of blooming and becoming you. You're standing in the final doorway of a 9-year story. 2026 is a 1 year. We are in a 9 year until January 1st. So, and 2026 is already whispering your name. Are you ready? Are you ready to move into 2026? Because if you have felt tested, stretched, delayed, pressed, depressed, repressed, oppressed, um, anxious, um, maybe bombarded by obnoxious individuals' behavior, um, or maybe you're even obnoxious yourself and having those moments that just come out of nowhere. But there have been a lot of invisible forces throughout this last year, and we're not just imagining them, they have been occurring. 2025 has been a year of unraveling the old versions of ourselves and preparing us for something entirely new. And now the universe is offering us a total reset, and we get to we get to choose whether or not we're going to push that reset button. So Saturn, the sacred architect of time and karma, has finally begun to move forward again. It is also father energy. It also rules time. It is the top down. It is the heaviness you have felt or the heaviness that you've been carrying, the sense of just drudging through this this mud, this invisible resistance. The I think of it as emotional, mental labor of trying to do your best while wondering if anything is really changing. And that chapter is finally coming to a close because the universe is shifting gears. So this is often called the cold moon, and this is also a supermoon. So everything feels louder, brighter, more amplified. And the supermoon in Gemini turns up the volume on thoughts, conversations, and stories. So let me get down to some of this other stuff here. So here we go. So this Uranus Uranus shifted and turned forward on December 2nd. So um, just 2 days before this full moon. And Uranus is the planet of awakening, and it's shifting. I'm sorry, Uranus is has shifted retrograde and shifted into um, the final degrees of Taurus. So if you have any placements around 28 degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, or Aquarius, you may feel this really, really intense. It's close to the anaretic degree. Technically, the anaretic degree is 29 degrees. But since Aquarius is, Uranus is such a huge outer planet with a huge energy, I'm gonna say that, 28 degrees plus, plus or minus 1 or 2 degrees of each side of that 28 degrees, you can expect maybe sudden clarity, emotional, um, or spiritual awakenings, unexpected pivot points, inner revolutions or evolution of the self, the crumbling, the dismantling, because remember it's Saturn, deconstruct to reconstruct, um, as well is involved in this. Um, the crumbling of outdated identities. So Uranus doesn't destroy you, it removes what isn't true so you can finally stand as yourself fully in your sovereignty. This isn't about chaos, it's about alignment. So the early part of the month may still feel heavy or foggy like, not because you're stuck, but because the mind is being detoxed. So just think of this as going through a mental detox. And I've talked about mental detox before with social media, that how we all need to take a break. And some of you, even now, may need to take a break from social media. So things may move more slowly, but also remember that the energy has been extremely accelerated. So is it moving more slowly, or is it just not as are we not feeling that same accelerated energy? I think possibly a little bit of both. Energy may feel scattered and emotions may come up unexpectedly. And this happened to me, myself, and I the other day. We're just out of the blue. I had anger come up, and then a couple days later, I just was very emotional and moved to tears. Could not tell you why. Really could not tell you why. I mean, I do have a few things going on in my personal life with some sick family members, but that wasn't it. That's something that I've been dealing with for years, and I've grown accustomed to that and worked through that. Maybe there's still some work to do. I don't know. I'm not perfect. I don't come on here and pretend to be a guru, but I'm just saying that these emotions may come out of nowhere and you might not know what they're going to be. Although I do think that sometimes anger and sensitivity go hand in hand, because sometimes we are so sensitive that little things anger us. And sometimes we're so sensitive that big things anger us. And there's a lot of things going on in the outer world that could be in our underlying subconscious that are coming up to the surface to to help us release that anger. So this is not a regression. Um, this is more of a purification that will help propel us forward. So there is a strong, mutable, shape-shifting type of energy here. Gemini is a mutable air sign. It's adaptable, curious, and flexible. And air signs have to speak. That's why speaking your truth is so important. They need to communicate in some way, shape, or form, whether it's written, verbal, creative, maybe through painting or something like that. Um, and remember, you're not meant to feel complete or fully formed right now. You're in the in between, and that's where you're meant what you're meant to feel. So because this moon again, it's telling you to let go of let the old identity melt so that your new self, your 2026 version of yourself can can bloom so that you can step into who you are. And that's what the blooming lotus is all about. You know, I got tired of the analogy of peeling back the layers of the onion. And every time you peel back a layer, you know, you would get this stinky smell. Well, when when the flower blooms, when the lotus blooms, and we peel back the layers, it smells beautiful. And it should smell beautiful every time we level up, every time we take that step into healing. It should smell beautiful. We should feel good about healing and doing the work. So that's how we became the Blooming Lotus life. Okay. So remember that with the twins, it's inner and outer, and it's not just other people, but it's it's the inside, your physical self and your soul self, your conscious, your subconscious, your outer and your inner life and truth. So this is why meditation, journaling, and real, honest, truthful conversation from a heart-centered space, they feel powerful right now. They're 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 bridging the energies of the twins within each and every one of us. And some of you may say, well, I'm not a Gemini. I don't have that energy. And yes, you do. We all carry all of the energy of all of the signs within us. So we have a grand mutable cross and the nodes of fate. So astrologically, this full moon forms a very powerful, mutable grand cross with the north and south nodes in Virgo and Pisces. This is sometimes called the bending. And this is a huge, huge karmic point. Okay. It's like a door hinge. Okay. You can open and close the door. So the moon in Gemini and the sun in Sagittarius are both squaring the nodes in Virgo and Pisces. Squares to the nodes mean that there's something that must be faced, integrated, released, or spoken. Okay. This energy says you cannot step fully into the new timeline until you speak what needs to be spoken, see what you've avoided, and face it head on, change that pattern or that cycle, and choose the truth that sets you free, that lightens your load. Okay. If you're a Capricorn, you know what I'm talking about. Stop carrying that backpack full of rocks of responsibility that is not yours to carry. And it's not only Capricorns, but Capricorn will feel this a lot if you do not let go. So, um, now this could look something like maybe a conversation you've been wanting to have, but something keeps happening and or interrupting, and you haven't been able to have the conversation. You keep postponing it. And it's a conversation that could possibly change everything. Okay. Um, or all of a sudden you realize that there's a pattern that you see. And now that you see it, your awareness, you bring awareness to it so you can stop repeating that pattern, especially if it's an unhealthy pattern or a belief that has limited you, an old story that you can now let go of. Because the story is now is about the part of you, who you are or who you thought you were that no longer fits. Okay. So it's a choice point between the old you and the new you. So this full moon forms a really that powerful square. It's not random, expect the truth to surface, misplaced effort to reveal itself, relationships may shift, people may be coming or going from your life. Um, this is where, we get that emotional clarity again. Things come into focus sharpens, and the hidden patterns dissolve. So we also have this, this turning point. It's not because of what happens to you. It's because of what happens within you that awakens you. Remember, what you resist persists, and what you release transforms. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be comfortable, okay? Because transformation isn't comfortable. And even after the transformation occurs, it takes a while to integrate the new version of yourself and to become comfortable with the new version of yourself and to be willing to step into your power, to own it, to integrate it and to be comfortable with who you are becoming or who you have become already. And I hope you all have done all of that release from that last moon. And if you haven't, there's still time to do it before the end of the year. So please, please do whatever you need to do. Dig deep, let it go. It's not worth it. It's holding you back. It's weighing you down. It's weight that you do not need to carry forward. So then we have this um, Venus Mars um, aspect of tension. So it's kind of like comfort versus truth, right? So there's this tension between emotional your emotional comfort and honesty versus growth, which is kind of what I just talked about. You may feel pulled between what feels familiar, um, even if it's something little, um, or what feels true but uncomfortable. And even if it's think about it as your freedom, liberation. Okay. So do you want to stay with what feels familiar? Or do you want to be a little bit uncomfortable and step into full bloom and embody the power and transformation of Pluto in Aquarius? So Venus helps soften the edges a little bit because Venus is all about the way we love and value ourselves and others, or what we love and value. Okay. And, Mars is forward movement. It can also be anger. It's the god of war, but it could also be propel us forward and help us through that discomfort and transformational forward movement. Okay. Mars in the mix can bring up heat, anger, courage, and this urgency, this need to move forward quickly. So the feelings may come quick and sharp, and conversations may feel necessary, like right now. Like we need to have this conversation right now. But remember to use discernment because you're being asked to act from truth, not from fear or discomfort. Okay. And then we have Mercury in Scorpio, Grand Water Trine. So the ruler of this moon, Mercury, is traveling through Scorpio, forming a supportive grand water trine with Jupiter and Saturn. And this brings deep emotional understanding, intuitive insights, the courage to look at what's hidden, the strength to create new foundations. And Mercury in Scorpio also helps you have the hard conversations. Scorpio doesn't have a problem, speaking its truth. Like it can be somewhat a little bit harsh sometimes, blunt, or like Sagittarius can be blunt. Um, where Scorpio I think can be a little more harsh than blunt. But it's all about truth, and that's the important thing. Um, so it helps you have the hard conversations, um, and it allows you to see and tell yourself the deeper truth and to have closure, to be able to close a chapter with honesty and compassion, whether it's for yourself or someone else. And even if you don't like that person, um, that it allows you to see them. Maybe it was someone you thought you could trust. You found out that you couldn't. Okay. But you're able to speak your truth, tell them that you know the truth, and, still send them love and have compassion while allowing yourself to have the strength to walk away with the baggage that you do not need to carry forward. So this is an excellent energy for closure, healing, and rewriting your inner script. Okay. Rewriting your inner script. So the grand water trine helps open your intuition because it forms this flowing triangle of emotional and spiritual support between Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter. So remember, Mercury communication, Saturn is, you know, structure, foundation, um, father energy. It rules time. Um, it's about legacy, right? Neptune, the planet of great spirit, intuition, highly sensitive, and Jupiter, expansion and growth. Um, be mindful of overindulgence. But this is really, really magical. I mean, this is intuitive magic. And Jupiter is there expanding our minds, all, Mercury, the mind, you know, communication of all forms, and Saturn is giving us the approval from the sun, the father energy. And Neptune is intuition, and Jupiter is also the ancient ruler of Pisces, which is also ruled by Neptune. And it's that beautiful expansion and growth, and it's in a highly intuitive sign, which is Cancer right now. So expect those psychic hits, that insight, those meaningful, dreams, especially. Don't write your dreams off as, oh, it was just a dream. Probably more than likely, more than probably, a lot of truth there. There may be more truth there. Um, Chiron is also in the mix in this month, and there'll be emotional healing, okay, spiritual breakthroughs, heart-centered clarity. So this is a really good moon for practicing or reading oracle cards, tarot, meditation, journaling, creating self-care rituals, prayer, emotional healing, creative expression, energy work. Let your soul speak. Let your mind release and soften and let your body exhale. We have all been on hyperdrive, being pushed back and forth and shaken and turned upside down all year long. So, with Saturn, Mars, and Neptune is a gentle warning as Mars approaches Saturn. The energy may become a little bit volatile, could become very volatile, depends on your chart, physically and emotionally during this first week. This is a sacred message from Spirit. Slow down, hydrate, protect your body, protect your energy, rest often, don't overextend yourself. Listen closely to your nervous system because, this moon is all about Mercury, and Mercury rules the nervous system. Gemini rules the nervous system. Um, Healing begins in stillness. We cannot force healing. Neptune will go direct on December 10th. Okay. Hallelujah. And then the illusion will begin to lift and the clarity will come. And then Neptune stations direct at the final degrees of Pisces, which is the most spiritual placement of the entire zodiac. Okay. And this is finally the end of confusion, people. And it's a return of faith. So you may feel old illusions dissolving, emotional honesty rising, spiritual awareness sharpening, clarity returning to dreams and desires. And underneath the old story, you're remembering who you are, right? So, like I said earlier, the Mercury shadow ends and returns to Sagittarius on December 11th, and your vision reactivates and forward motion begins. So, conversations start to revive, ideas um, and momentum start to return. And when Mercury clears its shadow, um, that path reopens. And I have the 11th. I think that's the 16th. For some reason, I'm thinking that's the 16th. And I do think it is the 16th because when I did the numerology, a 7 came out. So I apologize for that because that was all about spirit. 7 is all about spirit in numerology. It's your personal connection to the divine. Um, and then, Mars will enter Capricorn on December 15th. So there's a lot going on. I wanted to get you through this moon and give you as much assistance as I could. And I do have a overall um, astrology for the entire month of December, and that will be a separate video because this one was so long and I didn't expect it to be this long. But I want to say thanks for hanging in. Happy new supermoon or happy full supermoon in Gemini. And I hope this finds you well and take care. Just remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and that words are powerful. They are extremely powerful. And we get to write our new story. We get to release and heal the past from that Scorpio moon, and we get to rewrite the narrative moving forward. So remember who you are and bloom into who you know you're supposed to be. And if you don't know who you're supposed to be, follow the signs and synchronicities. Spirit will guide you. You are never alone in all of this. So from my heart to yours, I want to wish you a beautiful, beautiful, blessed day and a beautiful, beautiful full moon in Gemini. Please remember to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and share it with your friends and family. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. Namaste, everyone.